Good morning. Hi, Janie.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, you are. God, I look horrible. These Zoom things are the worst.
Yeah, everybody, do you notice they get on and they go, oh.
It's horrible.
Well, it is what it is. Oh my gosh, there's Rowan and she's
rolling around.
Rolling
around.
She's rolling around. Let me get her. Hey, Ro, what are you doing? Let's go to the meeting. Do you want to come to the meeting with me?
Kathleen, how are you? We never met.
Sorry. Hi, I'm good.
Nice to meet you.
You too. I've passed by your house many times. You did a great job with it.
Oh, thanks. We enjoy it.
Yeah. Where are you now?
In Boston.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm in England. I'm in Ascot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you for reminding me and
record to the cloud.
Confirmed. I feel like I'm reading like the guy on the medical commercials, but I'll just try to get through it. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment for this meeting. Traffic Safety Advisory Work Group is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials, all supporting materials that are provided. Members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Meeting rules, meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will forward public comment to those members of the public that have joined via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Thank you. We'll now proceed to the agenda. So the meeting's been called to order. And as I noted, and I would like to just take a second to acknowledge and inform the public that long-term time member Jack Gardner is no longer going to serve on the work group, and he will be missed dearly. He was his input was very valued. I could tell you that I started serving on this work group with Jack, I believe in 2004, and have learned an awful lot from him and consider him somewhat of a mentor. So with that, we will continue on and hopefully keep up the good work that he helped show us how to do. Moving on to public comment portion of the meeting. This is for items which are not otherwise listed on the agenda is there. So if this has to do with thematic issue or any other issues that are on the agenda, then there's no need to comment in public comment. Are there any public comments? You could use the hand raise or if you're on video. Yes, Ms. Hobson-Dupont.
Hello. I do have Kathy Atwood on my phone. Just so you know, she's trying to get in, but there's no place where she can put her full name. Anyway, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to the group. I really appreciate the work you do. And I believe that we can resolve the issue that we have with with Washington Avenue by talking and listening to each other in a respectful dialogue. And I'd like to add my concern to the other voices that will be following me on the call and speak to the safety issues that have come up at some prior public meeting on this issue. You may or may not know that Washington Avenue is a really quiet, lovely street.
Ms. DuPont, please,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you that you can, when we get to that item, so the public comment is for items that are not on the agenda.
I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
Sorry, that's okay.
What can we do for the other people who are trying to put in their full name?
I don't know. I just let a whole bunch of folks in. I
Thank you.
can't really help
you.
if somebody can't put their name in.
Thanks.
And I'm just trying to follow the town policy.
Got it.
So hearing no public comments for items not on the agenda, we will move first to official business, the discussion regarding the encroachments on Washington Ave in Mattakit. I see there's an awfully lot of you here, and what I would appreciate that, what I'd like to convey to all of you is that your comments and concerns have been heard, and that the town administration is working on them. So there is no action proposed by the traffic safety work group tonight or today. We put this on the agenda because at the last meeting of the comments received during public comment, and we promised you that we would, but I really see this more as just an update to inform all of you that that you were heard loud and clear and your concerns are noted, and that the town manager and her staff are actively working on this matter. And that what I have been told is that, encroachments are, nothing is going to be physically done out there immediate in the near term, and that they have retained a local surveyor to continue to work on a plan. And then that the town administration staff, including the real estate specialist, will be, back in touch with all of you, and that you don't have to, worry, as I understand it, that, in the next day or week, you're just going to show up and something is going to have changed out there. So, I'm hopeful that we don't have to have, a long discussion today or repetitive type comments. Certainly, I will go through the list, and you're welcome to speak, but your concerns have been noted, and this is all being worked on at really an administration level now. It's really where it's at. There's nothing else coming out of this work group at this time. So with that, I would open it up to members of the work group if either would like to add anything. I'm not seeing anybody. So with that, I will go through the folks in attendance. And again, we have heard you. So yes, Ms. Hobson DuPont.
Yeah. I would just like to just say a few things. And we've gotten together. We've talked about this, like the neighborhood, through Zoom. And we are not going to be repetitive, and we're going to be very, very brief. Because we do respect your time, and we thank you for the work that you do. We just want to just say that Washington Avenue is a very quiet, lovely street, and we haven't seen any evidence of safety issues. Many of us, I live here year round and walk up and down the street all the time with her. Mm-hmm. And especially in the off season, there's no safety issues that we observe. In my 30 years that I've lived on this street, I've not seen a single pedestrian or a car accident. And I'm guessing that most people drive around 20 miles an hour. Rarely have I even seen the NERDA bus traveling down Washington Avenue at an unsafe speed. And for the most part, the NERDA drivers are cautious and considerate. Very occasionally, I have seen a tourist speed down Washington Avenue not to miss the sunset. And that is a real thing. But that's the exception, not the rule. And maybe there could be some speed bumps or something like that. And as a group, we kind of feel that the neighborhood is being asked to really change its historical character and the charm and its appeal. And it just seems so aggressive a move to be asked what we're asked for. And I'm certainly not a traffic safety expert, but I respectfully ask this traffic safety work group to do what it can to halt any action, which apparently you have, and maybe do a thorough traffic safety assessment to see if that warrants the kind of action that you're asking the neighbors to do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Noted. Ms. Brown.
Yes, hi, I appreciate being heard today. I know time is valuable and this is a major concern for the neighborhood. I'm Betsy Brown. We bought our house in Matticat in March of 1976. We have a small business on South Wharf. So we've been there, you know, not just the summers, but from Memorial Day, sometimes into November. You know, I had 4 young children and I never felt a safety issue was at hand on that street. Just a great, quiet, wonderful neighborhood, great neighbors, safe, no problems. I'm very, very distressed by this because, as I said, I've never seen, I don't know why this just has happened to come up when it did. We were all surprised by it. There is a misconception that only a small number of residents have issues with the letters that were sent out, and that there is an agreement for most of the neighbors to remove any or so-called encroachments. But that is not really the case. We have a coalition of about 20 households, including our neighbors who are impacted and many of our abutters. You know, many people aren't able to be on the call today because this meeting takes place during a work day. And I can understand that some people aren't able to make it. I would like to let you know the neighbors that do share these concerns. If you don't mind, could I read their names to you briefly? George Turner, he's at 1 Washington Ave. Derek Odell, 3 Washington Avenue. Cindy Morrison, 6 Washington Ave. Gail Greenwald, also 6 Washington Ave. My husband, Jerry, and I, Brown, 7 Washington Ave. My neighbors, Melissa Walsh, Jennifer Morrison at 9 Washington Ave. Jessica and Scott Rankin at 10 Washington Ave. Janie Hobson DuPont, 11 Washington Ave. Denise and Tim Pedrati, 12 Washington Ave. Max Brown and Whitney Mercurio at 15 Washington Ave. Dave and Kathy Atwood at 17 Washington Avenue. Jennifer Blake, 18 Washington Avenue. Brad Brooks, 18 Washington Avenue. Eileen Mullen at 19 Washington Avenue. Alan and Gianna Chandler, 20 Washington Avenue. Naomi and Scott Smith, 24 Washington Avenue. Heidi and Rich Kozar, 1A Street. Sarah and Phil Schmidt, 3A Street. Todd and Kathleen Manning, 4A Street. Sue Jemison and Rick Johnson, 5C Street. Cynthia Wright Sullivan and Peter Sullivan, 6C Street. Sonia and Andrew Brown, 13C Street. Kara and Steve Rogers at 6D Street. And my new neighbors, Brian and Kim, I hope I'm pronouncing their name right, McGowan at 321 Matticat Road. So as I said, we are all, of course, very, very concerned. Let's see. I just, as I said, I just find why this issue has come up after all these years. I just hope there's not an underlying reason that we're not being told about. And I just hope we can come to some resolution that is good for everybody, and especially all our neighbors who work so hard to maintain their properties, be good neighbors, watch out for each other. And, you know, I hope we can come to some solution. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you're on mute.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I appreciate the comments. I would note for the minutes and the record that the DPW representative, Mr. Arsenault, has just joined the meeting as well, and he is participating as a work group member. I'm sorry, I'm also trying to admit folks as they show up here. Mr. Pedrati, I see that you have your hand raised. We have received your letter. I don't know that it's really necessary to read the entire letter and take that much time. If you'd like to summarize some points and speak, certainly welcome to.
Thank you, Art. No, I don't think it's necessary to read the whole letter. And I just did want to ask one quick question. I appreciate the fact that the board, I guess the select board, is maybe onto this issue. So that's fine. And if they've read my letter, then it would be redundant for us to talk about it today. But I did just have one question for you, because you said you're not going to take any action today. But in my letter, I had a request, and the request is for traffic safety working group to actually have an action item today. And that would be that they propose that we have a pause on the encroachment until such time as the study is going to be executed. So that's my question is, could that proposal be made? Could that be put to a vote? Or do you feel that's not necessary?
Certainly any member of the work group could make a motion to that effect if they so chose. My personal opinion is that it's in the hands of the town administration at this point, and that again, I would leave it to the other work group members. I wouldn't be inclined to make that
okay
myself. But.
Okay, just a follow-on question, because you, in your opening remarks, you said that we don't need to worry in the short term. Nothing's going to happen in a day or a week. I don't know if that's kind of a rhetorical guess at a timeline, but certainly within a day or a week, no study could be conducted. So, is there maybe a better indication of how I would define the word pause, or just to call a timeout? Because I'm guessing it's more than a week, right?
Yeah, right. I don't know. That's not, it's we are advisory to the town manager only. I feel like this has grown to perhaps feeling that we actually have some sort of regulatory authority or ability to direct town resources, and it's simply not the case. So really at this point, it's in the hands of the town administration, all of this. Okay. I appreciate all of the input and, folks wanting to get, be heard, but really at this point, that is, where your questions and inquiries are best directed, because I don't have the ability to, answer questions or speak on behalf of the town administration, other than I've been told that I conveyed to you is that, they have heard all of you. They are aware of the concerns, and they have engaged a surveyor, and they are working on this.
Okay, that's fine. I get that. Just one last.
I think we lost Mr. Pedrati. So we will move on. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard on this matter? Yes, Ms. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very, very quick. Thank you so much for your remarks earlier. I will say it's the most conclusive and helpful comments that we've heard since this process has begun. So thanks for giving us some direction on that. I would just ask, I think it's notable the number of people that are here and the number of people that Betsy Brown just read off that are part of the group. We've sent several letters and have not heard back. And so it's comforting to know that the town administration is working on it, but it's frustrating that we're hearing it here and not directly from them in response to the letters that a lot of people on this call have spent a lot of time developing. So I would just respectfully ask if it's something you're able to do to bring back to those conversations to the town administration for some level of engagement with this group. I think it will save us all a lot of time. It could have saved you from having to deal with all of us today on this call when you have other business. And that's really very truly all that we're asking for is direct engagement so we can get on with our summers and our enjoyment of the neighborhood.
I will convey that.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Mr. Odell.
Yes, thank you. My name is Derek Odell. I live at 3 Washington. I was going to make a suggestion before Melissa spoke, and I'm going to just kind of reiterate. It might be helpful if the town administration would consider putting or engaging with a couple people within Washington Avenue to work together cooperatively to understand the problem or the perceived problem on Washington Avenue. And we're happy to work, we're happy to take, instead of having 30 people on a call every time, we could easily find 2 or 3 people in this group to work with the town administration and address the problem cooperatively. We're happy to cooperate as long as we understand what's going on. And we, as Melissa said, you guys are the only people engaging with us at all. So it would be helpful, I think, for all of us if we could be a part of the process instead of just hearing about the process at the end. That's all. Thank you.
I think those are very helpful comments. And I believe that Mr. Beaugrand, as the real estate specialist, is hopefully going to be, back in touch. But I think also that your point is very well taken. And if amongst yourselves, not to eliminate anybody, though, you come to sort of a 1 or 2 or 3 people as a spokesperson, and you could let Mr. Beaugrand, the town administration, or Erica know that may help facilitate some discussion as well. Anyone else who would like to speak?
Yes. David and Kathleen Atwood.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I don't see who that is. Oh, Ms. Atwood, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw our voice into this. 17 Washington Avenue for the past 21 years. And I just want to thank you for the comment that you just made. I had a list of questions, but I think there's some consensus that we need to get together and talk about them in a smaller group. But I just wanted to have a voice and thank you for your last comment.
Thank you, Ms. Atwood. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on the matter? Ms. Blake?
Yeah, Jennifer Blate. I am trustee of the family trust that owns 18 Washington Avenue, where we have had a member of the family in continuous residence since the mid-1980s. I just wanted to add that part of this whole thing that I find most disturbing is that it seems like somehow someone somewhere wants to do big changes like widening the road, and this is in reaction to something. So if there is a safety issue, what is the actual safety issue that someone somewhere is trying to address? And no matter what that safety issue is, widening the road is a very drastic interfering step that is in no way ever going to be the right solution to whatever that concern is. And mostly that this seems to be in response to an anecdotal raising of an issue from people who don't even live there. And the fact that these big changes could somehow get onto somebody's radar at the town without talking to the people who actually live on the street is what I find most disturbing about this process. So I just wanted to add that for the record.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Yes, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And I, again, appreciate you taking the time and the other members of the work group today. We know your agenda is packed. And so a couple of things. One, we appreciate you taking the time to hear us out and putting this on the agenda. Number two, also want to just express our gratitude to Mr. Gardner and hope he is doing better. And we know how important he's been to the work group. Everything that everyone has said, I just want to associate myself with, and we look forward to coming together and figuring out how to resolve this. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, Ms. Rogers, or
I'm Kara Rogers. This is my daughter, Ailsa. And my husband and I and Ailsa live at 6 D Street, which is on the corner of Washington and D Street. So our house actually fronts Washington Avenue. And we have been there for, this will be our 16th summer coming up. And we walk to the beach every day using Washington Avenue with our dogs. I've walked Ailsa down that street when she was in a stroller. And she now walks that street on her own. And we've all discussed this, and we've never felt as though there's a safety issue on that street. We've never had any close calls. I've seen lots of people get hit on Island, pedestrians, bicyclists. Never once have I seen it in our neighborhood. So we're all kind of wondering what precipitated all of this. It's a kind of a mystery to me. And I just wanted to concur with Jamie that there really has never been a safety issue, even walking a small child or our dogs down to the beach. So that's all I wanted to add.
thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I appreciate everybody's concerns and comments. Like I said, you have been heard. The town administration and the select board are aware of the issues out here, and it's really into their realm. But I will convey back again directly to the town administration the amount of folks that did speak tonight and today, excuse me, the concerns that you have and the desire for there continue to be work on this before there's action taken. So thank you. Work group members, anything that you wish to add on this topic? Hearing none, we will move on to the next agenda item. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next item on the agenda is a request for a yellow no parking across from 10 York Street, which was continued from last month. And I will just bring that up and share my screen.
You want to open up the
This was filed by Mr. Glidden. And share screen.
We open
So
up.
the proposal before us today is to install, I believe, a yellow line on York Street opposite of number 10. And I'm just kind of scrolling through so that you can see, I believe you have, it looks like a vacant lot here. And right here, he's provided this supplemental information. The plan, the property is slated for development, and they have a proposed driveway, and presumably the proposed yellow line is for opposite of that driveway. So with that, I will open it up to work group member comments concerning this application. I can't see everybody when I share my screen, so you'll have to speak up if you have any thoughts or comments on this. Hearing none, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this matter?
Arthur, it's Jeffrey Kashulik. Do you hear me okay? Yes,
go ahead, Jeff.
Yes. I'm the applicant with through Mr. Glidden. The key piece of information here that really makes it almost impossible to access this piece of property without that yellow line, and it's not just directly across from the driveway, but it's a decent amount of the lot itself. Here is, if you look at this plan right here on the south side, this you see that 9.94 feet. It's a turn. It's not a, yes, right there. what happened with the subdivision of this piece of property many years ago. In order for the lot to the immediate south to possess enough frontage, the straight line was angled off to, by basically 10 feet to allow for enough frontage, on the lot to the south. And therefore, although the lot line is, 10 feet off, the driveway really can't start, to the north side of the 9.94 feet. And it's a very narrow road. It's a one-way road. And I mean, it's pretty important to, there's literally, you cannot access this without a yellow stripe line across the street.
Thank you. I am going to recuse from action on this matter, though I would say that Mr. Gardner was our vice chair, so I will try to facilitate the discussion, but then not actually participate or vote on the matter to avoid any appearance of conflict. And I think we will have to take up at the next meeting election or establishing a vice chair. Is there anybody, any other work group members that have comments on the application before you? Mr. Rowland? You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay. I was just asking if Jeff could indicate where how long a yellow line he's requesting from where to where.
Yeah, it's Mickey, it's essentially the, in all fairness, the entire frontage of 10 York Street, right where that red line is right there, correct?
Okay. Personally, I don't have a problem putting yellow lines on York Street. I think it'll help pedestrian access to the sidewalk anyway. And I do feel that it's going to be a problem getting out of that driveway. So I don't see a problem with it personally.
Mr. Arsenault or Mr. McVicker, any comments or input? Or if that's the case, Mr. Rowland, would you wish to make a motion?
No comments. I did receive the driveway access request. So pending the decision, that then we can move forward with it or not, depending on what you gentlemen, what we decide here.
I think it looks good as presented here.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve it as requested.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the matter?
Just a note. Oh, sorry. Just a note to Jeff that upon approval, then I'll update the permit and we can continue forward.
I will note that that this vote would be to recommend to the select board or to the town manager that the parking be eliminated along the strip shown as the red line on the plan before you. And I'll provide this as an updated plan to the town administration. And that if this vote carries, that ultimately it will be a select board matter with the recommendation of the traffic safety work group. So with that, we'll go to a roll call vote. Mr. Rowland?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McVicker?
Aye.
And the chair recuses. So that passed, Mr. Schulich.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. which is, hold on, I'm sorry, let me, we get some background noise there. We have a request for no parking either side of Parker Lane. And there was materials in our packet from the owner or residents at 10 Parker Lane. And there are, we're looking here in this area here, Mr. Findell, who I saw on here a minute ago. And I believe we had some discussion on this in the past, which was also included. This goes back to August of 2020. And some of the concern was that with no parking, that maybe there would be a speed concern as well. And ultimately there was a motion to install the no parking lines at all of the intersections. I'm not clear whether that had happened or not, but I will, since we had this presented by a citizen who is with us, I would like to open it up for his comments and presentation, and then go to the work group if I could. Mr. Findell, would you like to speak on this matter? We need to have you unmute.
Oh, thank you.
We all do it.
The lines that you talk about are put there. This is maybe beyond that. It is related to it, but all the markings are, as you spoke, on each of the corners are marked. But what I see right now happening is, due to the increase in traffic with all the growth that's going on, and also the increased development that's going to happen on the Fairgrounds Road end of Parker Lane. There's going to be 2 lots there coming up. I think they just went through the HDC with 2 more driveways. And if some of those will have larger homes on them, and if they turn into a rental type situations, you can easily see where the parking from those places could increase from what is allotted. And you can see that the outflow would go right around the corner onto Parker Lane. And I see that, yeah, the sign you showing on my screen right here about no parking on either side would be in the right direction to help the situation. It's short of putting yellow line across the whole street. But I sent on examples of videos showing a typical traffic interaction on the Hooper Farm end of Parker Lane. And you can see, have you all seen that?
Yeah, yes, those were helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, they just show the traffic going in and out. The one I showed was with a parked car right on the west corner of Parker and Hooper Farm. And you can see it's a blockade there. No one's got hit yet, but it's a really dangerous corner on that side. And you can picture that happening on the other end in the future. And I'm proposing a little short of stopping all, putting lines down the whole street. Proposing to at least put the no parking either side signs like you have on, I think it's on the Surfside Extension, and Hooper Farm has one. There's one on Gray Avenue, and Hooper Farm Extension also has one. So that was my proposal, is just to start by putting those no parking either side, as well as maybe we could speak with folks who, like that black car that is shown in the videos, that has been there. It doesn't just happen to stay there for a moment. It's regular. And I don't even believe it's from anybody that's right on the street. And it's things like that that we're trying to keep off of the street in general, because it's one, the safety with all the walkers going back and forth, the bikers. And it's also just an eyesore on a street that's traditionally been none of that. No parking was necessary. And each of the houses that were built had parking off-road, which is the town law. That section 138-18 says, you know, everything should be developed with full off-street parking. And anyways, this was a proposal to just start by doing this. And if it gets any worse, I believe we would be back to ask for, you know, yellow lines beyond that. But my proposal was just to put the no parking either side. And I think the last thing I did send in, unrelated to the safety and so forth, although it could be, I think the last, beyond those videos, you could see, I think there was a basketball hoop right on the edge of the road that's been there for months on there. So I'm open for any comments that the board may have. I appreciated a voice to speak out and help with situations like this.
Thank you, Mr. Fidel. Work group members, any comments or discussion on the proposal? I will say I'm supportive. I see that when we talked about this almost a year and a half ago, the lines at the intersections were what we thought would be a first phase to see if that would address it. But I think those videos were actually quite telling and certainly increased density. I do have some concern with respect, as we've talked about for many years on this committee, of the trade-off between that on-street parking that sometimes impedes traffic flow helps to reduce speed. And then when you don't have the parking, the complaints become the speeding. So, you know, I think that's a bit of a trade-off that you may find there. Mr. McVicker?
So that's a great point, because that's absolutely the case. Parking helps mitigate speed, but I know that road well, and speeding isn't necessarily an issue there. So I too would agree, no parking would be okay here.
Thank you. Mr. Rowland or Mr. Arsenault, or is there a motion? Would anybody care to make a motion to approve or deny the suggestion? Or to take no action?
I make a motion to approve. I think that would be helpful for some of the private residents as well. I know there's a lot of parking on properties at that location. So
thank you, Mr. Arsenault. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McVicker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a vote by roll call. Mr. Rowland?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McVicker?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Fidel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair.
This will go to the town manager as a recommendation, just to be clear, in case we weren't. This committee can't actually cause this to be implemented. We are advisory to the town manager.
Thank you very much to all of you. Appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. We have a request from, let me share my screen again, the food pantry and the vehicles parked at the entrance along Washington Street, where they distribute the food from. And shown on the screen right now is their door. You're probably quite familiar with this, and I know often there are vehicles double parked in this area, which does restrict the flow. I in my mind, I consider this the closest thing to an artery that Nantucket has in terms of traffic flow in a road, right? Pretty much everybody's got to go down this road to get to the boat and to, you know, conduct business on the island. So I think it's a pretty critical, important point to consider here. So their request is for a loading zone at this location. And I don't know if anybody from the food pantry is here and would like to speak on this before we deliberate. Please raise your hand or speak up. Ms.
Hello?
Carrero, yes?
Yes, my name is Janice Carrero. I'm the Executive Director for Nantucket Food, Fuel, and Rental Assistance, of which the food pantry is a major component. Just a little information. We're requesting this loading zone just during the periods where a significant amount of activity happens at the pantry, and that's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday from 2 to 6. In the previous picture, you saw a large van. That is our food pantry van. Because of the size of the pantry, we make frequent deliveries to that location from an off-site storage facility. So when we're coming 2 or 3 times a week to load the pantry with food, that truck blocking traffic is a significant issue. In addition, there are many people who park there all day when they take the boat to the other side. And now especially during the COVID period, as you can see from this picture, we have been making frequent deliveries of food to folks who cannot come to the pantry, whether that be seniors, injured folks, or now people quarantined. So we have drivers coming in like 2-minute intervals, loading their cars with food and then taking it out to those locations. We have been fortunate during the past 7 or 8 months to have had the use of the NRTA bus station to run operations for people actually coming to the pantry. That's going to end on May 1st with the anticipation that the NRTA will be opening up their inside waiting area for NRTA riders. That is going to mean during the periods of operation, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, as I mentioned, there are also going to be people lined up in that area. So the combination of the need to get a driver in their car loaded and out quickly is going to be critical. And also, obviously, when we make numerous deliveries to the pantry, both with our truck and sometimes Cape Cod Express. So to have a loading zone there during those periods would significantly improve our ability to serve the community. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. If I could first just back to you, Ms. Guerrero, is your proposal, it wasn't quite clear to me where you would like to see this start and end. Is it between these two cones?
Very definitely, I think that we would leave that up to you, but very definitely where the black car is located and where the white truck is. I'm not too sure we need to go as far down as three areas, but certainly the ability to drive in and drive out would mean those two areas, where the black car is and where the white truck in front of it is. Our van is parked up ahead.
Right.
That just happens to be that way.
Thank you. And
I mean, we realize parking in downtown is tough to come by, but we also know that there are folks who park there all day and they're not observing the 2-hour, the 1-hour limit.
And if I may, to you, Mr. McVicker, is this all 2-hour parking so that it's exempt if you have a residential sticker? So that is something else I think the work group could consider, that if this was to be changed to 1-hour parking, then you would still maintain parking, but it might help create turnover and eliminate the ability for people with the residential stick. It would eliminate the exemption. That's my understanding, correct, Mr. McVicker, that the residential exemption is in the 2-hour district and not the 1-hour district.
That's correct.
So, you know, I have a concern that, you know, a couple things. I think that the incremental time days on a loading zone could be a real enforcement problem, and as well as how do you demarcate that, right? If it was only to be on certain days, and could it be, because you've mentioned a few times, Ms. Carrero, that the part of this problem is a long-term parking and a lack of turnover, and maybe in this area there could be, what if we started all the way from Salem Street back to this point, made that all 1-hour parking so that there was more frequent turnover there, is just one thought. And the other thought that I had, and again, we'll open this up, maybe I should let the work group members go, but I've been looking and thinking about this, so I wanted to kind of offer my thoughts. I understand the proximity to the door of, as part of this operation, but I wonder if you're going to do a loading zone where you're trying to have enough room for people to pull right in and out of, would it not be better at those first couple of spots from the Nerder driveway so that it's more of a pull in and pull back out? So those are, a couple of just general thoughts that I had on the matter. And I'm curious how the other work group members feel in general about the proposal or any other changes. Mr. Rowland?
Yeah, I think I think this really does seem to have a real need, especially considering the people that need this service and these spaces. That if it's just changed to 1 hour, there's still going to be a conflict in the use and the ability to get a parking space in that area. So I'm kind of in favor of it, and I do agree with you, Art, that it should be. It would make much more sense to run it, to have it start right at the beginning of the building.
That's fine.
By the NERDA space, by the NERDA parking area. So, and I think in terms of the times, seemed like there were a couple different days of the week that were different. Maybe they could be a little bit more consistent just for the signage, the simplicity of figuring it out. But I'm kind of in favor of this one.
If I might add, and again, I just want to have a full discussion on this. The other potential option, I'm trying to also balance that. If it's just a loading zone, who can park there and for how long, and it's only for certain days, how that gets managed, especially with considering staffing. And the other option that we've done in a few spots are 15-minute parking. And might that be a better alternative than actually calling it a loading zone? The couple of spots I could think of is, similar to outside of the hub, or I think the one outside the bake shop. And then, it would promote essentially, I think, an ability to enforce on a regular basis and not have to worry about, oh, it's Tuesday at X time or Wednesday. How that might work. What if it was those two spaces that were shown and those were called 15-minute parking, or even if the 15-minute was back at the beginning at this location? Again, I'm just trying to put out ideas that might help make this work.
Right. I think that's a great idea, Art. But right in front of the store, 15-minute zone, that's perfect.
Ms. Carrero, do you think that would meet the needs of the of the pantry?
I mean, we would be appreciative of anything that could be done. And I must say the food pantry manager delineated the area from the door headed towards town, but I kind of agree with you that from the door headed back towards the NRTA makes as much sense, if not more. But 15-minute if it were enforced, would help us greatly.
Well, I think one thing if I could pass back is that the ability, you know, it provides you the ability to call for enforcement.
Right.
Right.
And I know
You know, if there's a violator essentially, and or to, especially if there's a sign there, you know, to perhaps nicely say to somebody that, you know, that just so you know, that's, you know, 15-minute parking.
Yeah, the only other comment I would make is for ourselves, when we're unloading that large van, which normally happens.
There's an exemption for loading and unloading, or
it's going to take more than 15 minutes to unload that van. That's the only, but you know.
I can't imagine that being.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
we're thinking more for that being open so that the folks that need the service can, you know, come and go. And most of it, you know, from what I'm hearing from you, and I think what would make sense to me is most folks that are, you're either loading for a delivery at this type of a scale, or people who are in need and picking up are not going to be there for that long. They just need to be able to get in and out.
Right. We're loading it from around on Monday evening. We're on the boat that from Hyannis. We're arriving at 5 o'clock. So we're making a major drop on Monday evenings, every other Monday evenings at around 6. Other than that, we are loading at around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And then the picture you see of the person loading the car, that's happening during 2 to 6.
So my only other kind of question is, you know, if that 15-minute spot was back here where my hand, I can't zoom any further on this aerial map, but I hope you can see my screen. And your door is about here, I think. You know, I'm just wondering, is it better to have, I understand, you know, a 15-minute spot that is not interrupting a continuous line of vehicles? Because as you said, then there is this situation of the, you know, the days that's not being used, you know, does that spot have any other utilization? Or, you know, I mean, I suppose I'm just kind of kicking on everything around as we think of how what we are going to recommend to the select board.
If I might, if the 15-minute slot were not limited to day, I mean, we are bringing materials and food into that pantry more often than the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The reason we delineated that for our request, trying to be reasonable, was that that's a period when almost a lot more activity takes place. But I mean, a 15-minute spot on a Monday would help us as well, because that we would be loading food into that pantry. And then we have folks bringing food, volunteers and donors bringing food to the pantry. And we tell them to bring it at around between 2 and 3. So they would be coming in and dropping off food as well. So, I mean, that would help us. I mean, we're there every day. The clients are there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Thank you. My sense is that, you know, this is the right spot for it, that's shown. And I think that the interests of traffic safety are promoted in the reducing of double parked vehicles by providing this, you know, opportunity. I think that when the double parked vehicles happen, you then get people going around those, and that really shouldn't be happening anyway, but I understand as a function of need, it does. And then they're going over into the bike lane to get around. And I see that as a concern. So anybody, any other comments on or emotion related to this matter?
No, I think the points brought up are, I mean, I can't see any other way to mitigate it. I would prefer a marked loading zone, but considering that would remove so many parking spots, I think the 15 minutes is as good as we can get it. So basically, I agree.
Is there a motion?
What are you suggesting in terms of the length and location of this space?
I guess that's a good question. You know, is it a single spot to start with?
Yes.
You know, I think that from going to the select board, you're asking for a change in the parking, and you know, maybe you could always come back, but let's start with we wouldn't, I don't think, want to see too much change or too many spaces there. And I think that ideally it would be cited somewhere around here. I probably would leave it to the DPW to figure out so that you don't end up with a half space, right? So that you start at fresh at the corner and then come back. It looks like either 3 or 4 spaces so that you can maximize this parking. And then I would say that in my mind, the direction would be to simply specify one 15-minute space opposite of the food pantry door, and then let the exact leave the exact positioning of that to the DPW to not negatively affect the remaining parking spaces.
I would request at least 2 for it to be an effective loading zone for the food pantry. They can't have someone parked bumper to bumper. I can't see it being effective for them if we just have the one space.
Well, maybe we should delineate a length, right? Instead of 2 spaces, I think we have to be, you know, what do we call a space length, right? Under zoning, it's 20 feet, but you really need 40 feet. Maybe, you know, maybe like a 30 or a 25 foot. I think 25 feet probably is a good area to get in and out of there, and then make sure that you are able to, you know, open the back hatch, or if they have a little ramp or something. I mean, their van, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess, is somewhere on the order of 18 feet long, probably. So I think 25 might make it a little easier for pulling in and out of there as well. So maybe we say a 25 foot long, 15-minute spot to be positioned as best to not negatively impact the remaining parking spaces.
Sounds good. I can make that motion.
Okay, so the motion has been made for a 25 foot long, 15-minute parking space opposite of the food pantry door at 10 Washington Street, to be positioned by the DPW.
I second that.
So the motion's been, did I get the address right? I think it was 10, right? 10, yes.
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Rowland, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McVicker?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you, Ms. Carrero. And so I will convey this back to Erica and town administration. And ultimately, this will have to go to the select board. And I would suggest that when that matter is up, that it may be helpful if you are able to address the board at that time as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on. We had a request from Chief Pittman regarding accessible parking spaces down along New Whale Street. And so I think most of you are probably familiar with this spot here, which is the blue curb, if you will. And so the request, I believe, was to freshen that up and make sure that the signage is so that it's apparent for what that purpose is. The other would be to create an additional ADA space right here in front of 15 Commercial Wharf. again, I believe these will also help access the boats and the pier and the area. You also have a land bank, a little bit of a park right here as well, that I know there's a plan for some future ADA space here, but until that time that's ultimately implemented, which might then mean that we could revisit that at some point in the future if you had a spot right here. But until that happens, this is what's proposed, and I'll open it up to comments or discussion from the work group. Mr. Rowland?
Yeah, knowing that area pretty well, the proposed location of that parking space, the condition of the road and certainly the sidewalks and crosswalks are pretty poor, pretty rough. I'm all in favor of putting in a disabled parking space in that area, but I might suggest that it be put just a little bit further up New Whale Street. There's a curb cut that provides access to the sort of the walkway along the pier. You know where that is, Art? It's
Is it the one at the end though?
Yeah, there's right where your thing is
right.
There. That's there. That one space there. I think the condition of the sidewalk and the curb cut placement, I think that makes it a more appropriate and more accessible space. So that would be my suggestion.
Mr. McVicker?
So it's interesting you say that, because I talked to the chief, who couldn't be here today, obviously, and he thought if this one that's proposed didn't work, that location that you just spoke to, Mickey, would be also ideal. And that I think that actually is close. I think that's actually close to the dockage that they have for handicap accessible as well. So it might be the best spot at first glance as well.
I certainly defer to intimate local knowledge of the area.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Mickey, I remember you speaking about this before, but how do we get the paint? And maybe this is a question for DPW, but I think you know the answer. How do we get the paint to stay on the curving at the Atlantic, down there by the Anglers Club? Because so we have we get a lot of issues trying to enforce that, because when we do enforce it, we get a lot of pushback because, as we all recognize, it's often faded like it is right now. And so the CSOs, they're shown where that handicap location is. And what happens is, we start writing these tickets, and, they're a big dollar ticket, as they should be, and then they point out that you can barely see the blue delineation. So any help in regard to that would be helpful for us for the enforcement piece.
They're not, as far as I know, they're not legal spaces unless there's a sign there, and the sign should make it pretty clear. Maybe you need a sign at the beginning or the end of the space, but I mean, I know the paint wears off eventually on the curb, which it's just going to do, but the signs should make it pretty official. There shouldn't be any questions.
Okay, so, and if I can again, I agree. Yes, there's absolutely a sign there, but it's I'm trying to figure out how best to put it to words. But with the blue delineation, it's like sort of a little more clear cut than just that sign. So kind of like in a typical spot on a street that can be painted, right? It's a clear delineation as to where that parking spot is. So then when we give a ticket for maybe being half on, if you will, that's where we get the issues with it. So it's more of obviously recognizing you can't paint the cobblestones, how to get the area delineated so that we can enforce this without a lot of pushback.
I can take a look with Ray at this location. We're trying to get some line painters in. I don't believe that this is on my roster to be painted, but also Ray has been going around and getting into areas that the large contract paint trucks can't get into. Let me talk to him and see if any, and then Rob, and see what can be done there. In addition to the signage, but I can't give anything definitive right now.
Just by looking at the, I'm looking at the street view, Google Street View, and I can see where the sign is up by the Anglers Club, and it's well off the side. I mean, it's on the other side of the sidewalk, and there is one sign there. Maybe that could be placed in a little bit more of a visible location. You maybe even have to move the space down a little bit to enable the signage to be placed better. But I think we have to rely on the signs.
But yeah, we have no problem revamping it if it'll help, if it'll assist the police department and enforcement and reduce the headache. Yeah, we'll work with you on that.
Okay, so is there a motion to improve the signage and markings at the existing accessible space and to create a second accessible space at the southerly end of North Whale Street?
I'll make that motion.
Motion been made. Is it seconded?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Rowland?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McVicker?
Aye, thank you.
Chair votes aye, and I will convey back to Erica so that we can get a revised graphic made that could go to the select board. Moving on, we have a suggestion to, this was made by the chief at the last meeting that we put this on the agenda. I think it's, I fully support it and think it's appropriate. This is to create a protocol with respect to public comment. And this exactly mirrors that which the select board recently adopted. And I'm happy to take questions or have further discussion on it if necessary, essentially establishing the protocol for public comment. Any discussion? Is there a motion to adopt the protocol?
I'll make a motion to adopt that protocol.
Motion been made. Is there a second? Mr. McVicker, second. Mr. Rowland, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McVicker?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. And finally, we have, we had a, finally, I guess would have been the minutes, but a request come in with respect to Bacchus Lane and behind the schools, and whether or not we could do anything to help with the speeding. And I'm not sure exactly what foolishness refers to, but what can we do to improve the safety along this road? One of the my immediate thoughts was, has this been designated a school zone? So we did look into that a little bit. The issue is that this remains a private road at this point. It does seem to me that that might be something that we actually could recommend, that this is a road that is taken by the town, given the uses of the fields and the schools. And if that happened, then perhaps it could be designated a school zone, which might help. And but I didn't know if the work group had any other thoughts or suggestions on what we might do along this corridor.
I wouldn't be able to address this. I'd have to talk to Rob on this one, because I know we've had many discussions on the roads around the school, and I'd need more information from him.
Just for you weren't copied on the on this email, but I'll put it up just for, it's in our packet from Mr. McNeil that the schools was free to purchase or mobile signs and guards, if they want to. Otherwise, I think that the question is, it would have to become actually a public road for the, you know, for the town to then take really action on what's being done. And that's almost, I mean, we could refer this to the Road and Right of Way Committee. Perhaps they're the ones that recommend roads, I think, for takings. So that's just one other thought, if we were so inclined, or we could take no action or follow Mr. McNeil's suggestion that you know, the school is, as the abutter to a private road, is free to take the action as they see fit. As I, you know, am reading this, I wonder where that crosses with police, given, you know, the situation of the school and the amount of traffic. But
I'm of this. I mean, I know you're talking police, but I'm of the same mind, since that is abutting so much of the school's property. I don't. From our perspective, I wouldn't want to presume anything but the school continuing to have that road themselves, and I wouldn't recommend the town taking that. But yeah, that's my opinion.
anyone else? A motion or take no action? I'm not hearing any desire to take action, so perhaps we suggest that Erica could forward Mr. McNeil's suggestion to the schools. That's by consensus. I don't think that takes a motion unless anybody feels differently. That's, I think, what I would suggest. Okay. Anything else on that one? Not hearing any. Moving on to, I believe let's see, we had included quite a bit of the stuff and has to do with the school zones, which again, I don't think is applicable as a private road when they put off a lot of stuff. It's my design from 1999 of that road. We have the minutes of March 18th. Are there any comments or corrections for the minutes? If not, is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
Motion made.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second it.
Motion has been seconded. Mr. Rowland, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McVicker?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second. Mr. Rowland, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McVicker?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, sir.
Next month. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
How do I end this meeting?